Welcome to the Pitmaster Podcast. We're barbecue competition competitors that aim to share information, advice, tips, and tall tales about our favorite pastime. Head over to thepitmasterpodcast.com for all things Pitmasters, or follow us on your favorite social media platform.
We won the Open in '98, and that was with 400 teams.
The thing is, when people tell me, hey, I did your recipe, and my family thinks I'm amazing now.
Right? Everything barbecue is we are arguing, and Jerry spring up is like, I'm not going to door. And I say, Sue, got some barbecue for you. And she say, thank you, Tuffy. And it just kept going and going and going. And then as time got further along, started winning and doing real well. And I developed a lot of rubs and seasonings, and it snowballed from there.
Damon had this ridiculous sense of being able to look at a rub and he can name it. I'll never forget. So he looks there and he goes, hey man, I see what you're doing over there. Why got that sunburned dogs and Plowboy's bottle? And I was like, are you kidding me?
Here are the hosts of the Pitmaster Podcast, Rusty Monson, head pitmaster of Salt City Barbecue, and the two-time grand champion pitmaster of Smoke Ain't No Joke Barbecue, the Anthony Luan.
All right, guys, today on the podcast, we have Chris Schafer from Heavy Smoke BBQ, and all that for 6 Pieces Barbecue Show podcast, which we are huge fans of. Welcome to the show, Chris.
What's up, guys?
Oh, just chilling, man.
Just chilling, enjoying this beautiful weather that we've had here in Salt Lake.
Unless you're mowing the lawn in the middle of the day, it's not so beautiful.
Bad move on your end.
Yeah. So is it one of those things where you're like, you got to mow it by 8 a.m. or you're screwed?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even then.
Yeah.
I'm too fat. I sweat like a sieve, dude. I'm out there like, I don't care if like, I have my daughter randomly put water on me. I'm like, I'm dying. I need to. Anyway.
I swear to you, I told my wife this year, I said, something in my life is changing. Either you're cutting the grass or I'm paying somebody else because I'm not doing it. So I got it this year.
I did that last year. My nephew come.
Are you push mowing your yard?
Yes, I am.
Dude, Rusty has probably like over a half acre of grass and you're push mowing it.
Yeah.
Dude, time to get a rider.
How else am I going to work out? Getting the mail every day? Okay.
Yep.
We're getting off topic here. Chris Schafer, you are quite an accomplished barbecue competitor. I'm talking, you won the first annual KCBS World Invitational Championship, right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
That was pretty big. I mean,
it's a wild ride.
Dude, and we're talking, okay, if no one knows what that is, you have to get an RGC or a GC to enter. And if you look this thing up, man, that who's there. I mean, it's crazy. How there's just everyone goes there. Great contest. You guys took it down the first one. Talk to us a little bit about that experience for that going to the first time and GC in it.
It was kind of a cool thing because, I cook, I'm in St. Louis, so I cooked a whole lot of the St. Louis Barbecue Society leading up to that. And when I first started, I cooked KCBS under a different team name. So a lot of people couldn't see my stats. And so when I won that, guys like, my buddy Matt Walker from Boomerang, he looked me up afterwards. And he's like, dude, you've cooked like 10 comps. How did you come in here and win that thing? And I'm like, nah, I've cooked like 80, 90 comps, but you couldn't see my stats. But man, we had a lot of adversity that day. We took on drums and the weather was bad. It was like 18 degrees. It was just killing us. And we had a pit go out on us. We had a hell of a day. But when we got done, I told my dad, I was like, damn, I would turn that cook in every weekend, wouldn't you? And he's like, hell yeah, I would. So we went in knowing we had a pretty good cook going, but you're up against 94 teams, and 90 of the 94 teams there are people that I've been like dreaming to be like, if that that makes sense, And so we got the chicken call, and I come back and I always hand the trophy to my dad, and I was like, damn, I'm happy. And he's like, yeah, dude, got a call down here, we're good. You got the rib call, and we're like, oh, all right. This is interesting. And they were calling the top 10 teams up, and they would call you down. So you knew you were top 10. And I stayed up there next to Travis Clark, and he turned to me, he goes, you're having a hell of a day, aren't you, brother? And I was like, yeah, man. I was like, we'll see what happens in brisket. We got 4th in pork, and then they called us 11th for brisket. And I go up and get it and come back. I'm sitting down, and I was like, damn, dude, like, we're in this thing, so far the only 4-call team, and Tim from Shake and Bake had 3. And my buddy's like, dude, it's yours. I was like, not if we hear Tim's name. He was like, we hear Shake and Bake, it ain't me, because he had a couple higher calls. they get all the way down, and Tim didn't get a brisket call. And I'm sitting there, and my buddy's like, "You okay?" And I was like, "I'm going to throw up." And he's like, "You serious?" I'm like, I seriously feel like I'm going to throw up right now. And my buddy from Woodhook, Wes Patterson, he walks by and he tapped me on the shoulder because he was going to the bathroom. He knew he didn't win it. So he's like, I'm going to the bathroom before everybody else gets there. He walked by and he just tapped me on the shoulder. I just go, "I'm going to puke." He's like, "No, you're good." And, they called us up there, and we won that thing. And God, man, the feeling was insane. From the walk from where I got my trophies to where I was sitting was 40 feet, and it took me 30 minutes to get there from people mobbing us and things like that. And they hand you the paperwork to fill out because you're getting paid, And I couldn't get my hands to work to get in to get my tax ID to fill out the paperwork. I just called my wife. I was like, "What's our tax ID?" So we get out of there. We're sitting at the hotel that night. I'm just getting bombarded with calls and texts and messages. And I told my dad, I was like, "Man, like we could never win another one again. We call ourselves world champions." And it's a really cool feeling, to knock one down like that. But then, then we come out and had a pretty good year after that, and kind of solidified the fact that we were pretty good KCBS cooks.
Oh, dang, dude, that's amazing. So let's roll it back. 81 competitions, day one. How'd you get into barbecue?
So, you guys are like interviewing other podcast guys because obviously I can talk. So you guys are gonna sit there so quiet for a while.
That's why we do it. We look at it as like a break for us.
Yeah. So I cooked in high school. All through high school and college, I cooked in a restaurant, and then I was working at Sprint, actually a cell phone store. And a buddy of mine worked for me. His name's Cole Hardy. His team was at the time Q and Work, and then it became Cole's Sweet Heat. And he had a sauce on the market that was doing pretty good in St. Louis. And he's like, "Man, you cook?" He's like, "I do these competition barbecues. You ought to come hang out." I'm like, "Yeah, that's cool. I'll check it out." And we go out, we get out there, and man, we drank like idiots. I don't know how much Sailor Jerry I drank that night, but it shouldn't be legal. And we get up the next day, and he's like, "All right, man, what are you doing for chicken?" I said, "What do you mean? What am I doing for chicken?" He's like, "You're doing chicken." I was like, No, I'm not. And so we just kind of like fumbled our way and turned in chicken, and we got beat up bad, man. Like 36. I think it was like 45 teams or something, 50 teams. We got like 36 overall, and it was bad. The team next to us actually had a big, I can't remember if it was a big gravity fed. I don't remember if it was a Rebel or what it was. And they left the chute open. And I look over and there's flames shooting like 5 feet out the top of their chute. And instead of closing the chute, they open the door, which just lets more air in. And the entire pit engulfed in flames and almost burns down their whole site. And I only tell you that to let you know that they beat us in all 4 categories. And for some reason, man, after that, I was like, I'm hooked. You'd think an experience like that, you'd be like, nah, I'm out. This ain't for me. And, I cooked with that team. It was like I said, Q and Work was the team for the first year or so. And then me and my buddy Cole split off and just cooked as Cole's Sweet Heat for a year. And then we found the St. Louis Barbecue Society and started cooking that for a little bit. And we had never, we got some calls here and there, and had never won a GC or an RGC. And then we had a scheduling conflict, and I was like, you mind if I go cook this comp without you? And he's like, that's cool. So I took his trailer, one of his pits, a pit I built for my dad, one of my pits, and a Weber Smoky Mountain. And I had to have a team name. And we're sitting there like, I'm sitting there with the application, I don't know how you guys, I don't have to come with your first team name, but I'm like, I already had a team. I didn't really need a team, So I'm trying to fill it out. And, my buddy Cole always had a joke. People would always be like, man, how do you barbecue so good? He'd always say, well, just salt, pepper, and heavy smoke. And so I wrote down salt, pepper, and heavy smoke. And I was like, damn, that's too long. And I just crossed out salt, pepper. And so I went in as heavy smoke. And I RGC'd that comp. I had 4 calls and RGC'd that comp. And I just never went back, man. I was heavy smoke from there on out, And that year, the St. Louis Barbecue Society, they take your top 6 comps, and I only cooked 6 and finished 7th in the St. Louis Barbecue Society, and figured I was like, this is probably my thing, and never looked back.
Dang, that was awesome. That's awesome to be able to hammer it out like that.
I think it would help me if everything started on fire. I'm like, hell yeah, it's like a Motley Crue show. I'm coming back.
You just need some hair music going, and you're good to go.
I just wouldn't have any Pepsi, and like Michael Jackson style.
So you mentioned
first thing I cooked on, me and my buddy Cole, we had to go get greens because we didn't have greens yet, and so we went to a store to get greens. We were gone for 10 minutes, and we were cooking on one of the big Jack's Old South water smokers. And the 10 minutes we were gone, our teammate let it run out of water and started a grease fire and burnt up everything. We were gone. That was the last comp we cooked with that guy. I was like, if I can't leave you alone with a pit for 10 minutes, like, you're off the team.
Well, and especially one with water in it.
Yeah. It was about a month ago I seen a fire. It was actually this guy to the right of me, his team member, decided to dump a whole bunch of grease into the charcoal dump. And it was a good 3-4 feet flame that I seen burst out of that bad boy.
No, he went over, and Clinton, who runs the pit stop there, was like, just throw in that can over there. Throws it back.
It was like a little mushroom cloud came out. It was actually pretty cool. But
that happens a lot. A lot of they start throwing trash in those ash cans and stuff, and that happens a lot.
Yeah. So you actually mentioned that you cooked a lot of the St. Louis Barbecue Society. Us people out west do not understand the concept of that. Obviously, we don't cook it. Can you break down that style of competition for us so we can understand what the St. Louis Barbecue Society comps are like?
Yeah, so it's identical to a KCBS. The only change is that you get 6 minutes before and 6 minutes after instead of the 5 and 5. And then perfect score in a category is a 225 instead of a 180. And then so your perfect comp is I guess a 900. So that's really the only difference. I mean, if you look at the bylaws, they basically copied and pasted from KCBS to create them. But the St. Louis Barbecue site started because the guy who started it, Frank Schmer, he went to a KCBS in St. Louis, and he walked around and everybody's in their trailers. There's nobody to talk to, and he was like, "Man, this kind of sucks. I want to talk to these pitmasters and stuff." So he was like, "I'm going to start a society where we get out and we talk to people and we just do more." And so he started, it's more of a charitable organization, and they only do, this year's rough. I think they're going to have 8 comps because of COVID, but I think they do 15, 16 competitions a year. They take your top 6 for team of the year. But it's easier in St. Louis. If you cook St. Louis Barbecue Society and you live in St. Louis, you can cook 15 a year and not get more than 2 hours from your house, So it's nice to not have to travel too much. And that's why a lot of St. Louis guys start there. And then once you have some success, they start to kind of branch out. But as far as format goes, I cook the exact same stuff if I'm there or if I'm in a KCBS, and the rules are pretty much the same. Me and my dad, we first crossed over, we'd get confused on the 6 minute versus 5 minute timelines. I'd send him with a box and he'd be standing there for a minute and be like, 6 minutes or 5 minutes at this one, But
do we have an extra minute to run this? So then you switch over to, I don't know, just 2019 alone, I'm looking at what you got going on here is 10 grand champions, 1 reserve, multiple top 5s, even stuff like that. So I have a question. So I just won my very first GC. We've been a competition team for a little over a year, and you kind of get in this mindset where you win and I don't know. I think I've been, of course you go to your first, you're nervous, you keep going, you get nervous, you get your RGC, or whatever. But winning this kind of made me put in a new mindset. I'm a little confused. What kind of advice would you have for someone like me who gets their first GC? What did you do after that? What kind of mental shift did you do? How did you do your next comp? Stuff like that.
Yeah. So I'll tell you, I had 7 RGCs before my first GC. The thing was I just couldn't get 4 together on the same day, and I think that's what a lot of new cooks' problem is that you crush ribs one week and then you're off the next week, and to get all 4 of them together on the same day and then find 4 tables that agree with you is a hard thing. So that first GC it's huge because it's not easy. I don't care who you are. It's not easy to get there. As far as the mental, I think, and you'll see this as, when's your next comp?
August 15th.
Yeah, August.
Okay, so what you'll notice is when you're getting ready for a comp and you're going to know that it's possible now. You've got one, and so it can happen, and that it was your process that got you there, and so you'll have so much more confidence because when you're chasing one, you're always like, "Damn, is it ever going to happen? Am I going to get this thing?" And now that you got one, you're like, oh, shit, that wasn't that hard. You know, I just got to go do that again and get lucky. I think, you know, people undervalue the amount of importance they put on mindset when it comes to competitions. You know, when you got a guy like Matthew Walker out there winning, you know, 30-40% of his competitions, he goes into every week like, I'm going to win this. Like it's I'm number one. Where are the rest of you guys? And when you get that mindset, you just start doing better. And I think that first GC is the first step to becoming that team, because you know, hey, I can do it. It wasn't that hard. I put together a good cook. I got 4 good tables. I left with a GC. I can do this again. So I think you just approach it with so much more confidence going forward, and you'll see your results get better because of it. And I think that's why some people, they chase a GC for so long, and then you see them knock down 2, 3, 4 that very first season because they got that mindset piece back together. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I was listening to your podcast, and I don't know who it was. I want to say Jared Worth, but he was talking about how if you're in your head and you try and get every little detail, you're just going to lose. You know, like you're just not going to do well. It's the guy who comes in and just kind of takes it easy, cooks your cook, you know, do what you can do. That's going to win, you know, because if you go ahead. I
always say I do better on doubles because I'm so tired from the first day that I go into autopilot on the second day and I just do my thing. You know, there's not like any overthinking it. It's like, no, at 9, I do this, at 9:15, I do this, and I just do it. And then at the end of it, you know, you got to get stuff off at the right times. But the first 80% of your cook is still following a timeline and doing what you're supposed to do. So I think it just becomes muscle memory after that. And you've done it a couple of times. It's easier. Some of the best advice I ever got, I don't know if you guys know Drew Davis from Razor Racks. He's a good buddy of mine. We did a class together in Chicago this year. And it's funny, you know, you cook as long as we have and you still learn stuff every comp. Or I guess this is a class, but you know, the piece of advice he gave, he's like, don't ever make it so important that it's going to ruin your day. Like, don't ever get yourself so psyched up through the week that losing on Saturday affects your day. You know, it's just barbecue, and you just got to go follow your plan and know that if you follow your plan and hit the tables, you're going to win more than you lose. Well, not more than you lose, but you're going to win more often than not, I guess.
How would he advise me to not get that way during Saints games?
Oh man,
because if the Saints lose, my week's toast.
I don't know, man. I'm a giant Cowboys fan. So
you're completely versed in the disappointment area.
Chris, I'm a Cowboys fan too.
Oh, you too?
Yeah. So
that's a lot. You guys need to talk to some people.
I just dealt with disappointment for, I don't know, was it 20, 30 years, like my whole life now at this point, you know.
But that's good advice.
Today, so.
That's good advice, because it's like that's what makes you get so in your head, you know, is that fear of losing and that fear of spending X amount of money and have it all go for naught. You know, it's just, I guess if that's the case, you're just going to waste that money, man. You just got to get in. That's what I was, you know, like everyone says it all the time, but it kind of hit me. It was like, you know, it's like, you're trying to beat yourself. That's all you're trying to do, you know? And I heard that a lot and I was like, yeah. But all of a sudden, for some reason, it's like pop. This is the first competition I really had that in my head, and look what happened. So,
well, you ever hear people talk about don't gamble with scared money? Like, don't go to the casino with money that you can't lose. Competition's the same way. If you can't afford to blow $1,000 on a weekend, don't go, because you're going to be so in your head. If you're going in going, I got to win $500 to make this worth it, you're already behind the 8 ball, man. So don't gamble with scared money.
That's good advice. That's like with poker, you know, that's what you go into it. You have to have a bankroll. If not, then you're not going to play well, because you're afraid to lose. If you're not afraid to lose, playing loose, and you know, it's going to help you.
Yep. So
if you don't have the kind of money that you can just put 500 on black and walk away and be fine with it, you probably shouldn't be at a comp.
Right.
So, how many contests have you done coming out of the COVID break? Just curious.
I just cooked my fourth is I had a double this weekend, so I just did my fourth.
Right. So do you?
I won before the break, and then I've had 4 since.
Right. So do you feel like everybody's a little bit of rough around the edges, including judging? Was it kind of rough coming out of that long of a break? We usually have a long winter break here in Utah. We get like 3 months, and then we get right into it. And usually my March cook is some of my best, but this one coming out of the COVID break, I really struggled with this last one. So I was just wondering what you were seeing on your end on the competition scene.
I think I'm seeing it more of the judges than the teams. I think a lot of teams have been practicing. I think they've been doing virtual competitions. I think they've been doing a lot of things to stay busy and active. I think we're seeing the judging more than anything. I mean, I'm never a guy to bash judging just because I know it's a preference thing, and they don't always like my stuff, and it is what it is, you know. But you know, this weekend I was in Franklin, Indiana, and Saturday was a solid cook. Like I've won with that cook, but Sunday was an insane cook. Like, if I could turn that in every single week, I'd be the happiest dude on earth, and I bet I'd win 40% of my comps. And I got one call and finished 15th overall, you know. And you know, maybe they just didn't like my stuff. Maybe judging was all over. I caught 2 really bad tables. Finished second on 2 tables with 37th place. And so, like, you know, just tough tables. But I think we're going to see that more in judging than anything. I think it's going to take a couple months for these guys to get out there and kind of get their taste back and do that. And maybe I should just avoid Indiana. I don't know. No,
I agree with you. We had one really bad judge at our last competition. He or she ruined a lot of people's end totals. We had a great chicken box, but he gave me 665 with no comment card. And I wasn't the only one. There's a couple other competitors that almost got the same look on appearance. And it was like, man, you ruined a lot of people's cooks. So, but oh well, we'll move on. Luckily he drops, but oh well, we move on.
In chicken and pork on Sunday, I had, I guess I was 37th in both, and I was second on my table. And the first person on the table was like 29th or 30th, which means that table got everybody. Well, I was only 6 points at RGC, so. You know, me catching 2 tough tables. If one of those is a regular table, I'm RGC. Now the guy that won it, he walked the field by 15 points. I wasn't catching him, but that table could be a difference between RGC and a 15th. And when you're looking at team of the year points, that's a lot of points.
Yep. But anyways, so you're successful. You've been hammering it out there. Then you decide to team up with is it Rob Honky? Is that his?
Yeah, Rob Honky.
Yep. This guy's decided to team up, kind of like Rusty and I, to do a podcast. Let's talk about how you guys decided to get into that.
Yeah. So I will tell you before I say that, I told you the very first competition I cooked is Heavy Smoke. I RGC'd, and Rob was the guy that GC'd. So we've been you know, best barbecue buddies for a long time, and he's got another podcast that we do called Stampeding of Cattle. That if you don't like cussing and politics, don't tune in, but it's pretty awesome. It's a couple hours of just BS. But so we've done that in the past, and he had the equipment, and he was ready to roll, and I was like, dude, like, I'm going crazy without COVID. And he's like, well, we'll just do a podcast. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess, you know, and we'll give it a shot. And I know a lot of barbecue people from cooking so much, so it's easy for me to call Brad Leininger and be like, dude, can you come on the show? You know, and they'll usually come on pretty easily. So it's easy for me to get guests. And so he handles all the technical stuff and does all the editing, and I just basically book people, and then I'll do all the, I'm sure you guys do a lot of show prep, but I try to do all the show prep and kind of come with some solid notes and stuff and get going. And we were just going to do it through COVID. I mean, it was like, well, let's do 4 or 5 of these and see how it goes. But we're having so much fun that I'm going to try to keep it rolling, because it's a blast, man. And the stuff you hear from these people, and like, we're learning things every week from these pitmasters, and you know, we're having, I mean, how many world champions we've had on, or team of the year winners, or guys like Darren Worth, you know, and they're just BSing like they're sitting around a fire at a comp, which is kind of what our feeling was trying to be like. And I'm picking things up from them, and I got people telling me that they're loving it. So we're going to try to keep it rolling.
Well, that's kind of like our story a little bit there, Rusty. You know, we just met at the competition last year, decided to do a podcast. We sit here and shoot the shit.
I should have known, though, because you're playing like Sheena Easton. that was like a huge red flag for me. I think I should have just, you know, oh, I don't know, bro. Sorry, you know, Sheena Easton.
But you're having fun. Don't lie.
No, it's a great podcast because what I'd like to say about it is it's really you guys have a really good way of asking some really important questions. You know, I listen to a lot of podcasts that are in barbecue. I can listen to them all day, every day. If you put barbecue in it. Now, I'm kind of an audio guy, so if it's too weird audio wise, I have a hard time continuing listening to it, which you guys have covered. But you guys ask a lot of really, really good questions, and you get into the bottom of it. You know, Greg Rempe's a really good interviewer, you know, and that's why I like is because he gets these questions like, oh, cool, yeah, and you want to hear the answer to it, you know. And so I think that's what you guys do too. What's something that you've taken from your podcast, talking to all these people, that you've learned that was big for you?
Well, I always talk about being a mindset guy, but almost every big name comp guy that we've had on has hit on mindset. So it's become so much more important to me, and to kind of pass that on to new teams is to really focus on your mindset and going into comps and not being in your own head. I'm assuming you guys have listened to quite a few of the shows that we've done, and almost every single person has talked about mindset. And it's like a new team doesn't even think about that. You hear these veterans all hammering on it, and it just makes it more important.
So I got practice. I got Headspace. It's an app on your phone. You can do meditations, and I'll do it right when we get there. We get breakfast, right? And I'll go off and I'll sit down and I'll put one on for 15 minutes, just in the truck, on the chair, whatever it is. And I'll just kind of zone out from it and just kind of calm myself, because that's important. It's a sport. It really, you can say whatever you want about it. It's a sport, and mental and physical are both things that you have to have in line. What are some things that you do to get yourself mentally prepared for a competition?
So I'm a huge music guy. I like all kinds of music, but I've got different stuff for different moods. And, when I'm trimming and things like that, I listen to country music. I listen to Cody Jinks and Chris Stapleton and things like that. And the night before, when I'm injecting and things, I'm always listening to like Clutch and Pantera and like the heavy metal stuff. And a lot of times when I'm during turn-ins, I try to listen to that heavier stuff too, and just kind of get me jacked up. And I got that from when I played football. I would get so jacked up, listen to Thunderstruck and get like I'm gonna go crush people mood, and I would get the same way. But I'd say music is the best for me. But one of the best things for me, man, is I compete with my dad now, and I didn't, when I first started, I didn't compete with my dad, so I'm always in the right mindset, because my dad he'll outwork anybody. He'll run circles around every person out there. And I watched this dude who's 62, just turned 63 years old, out there working his ass off. And I'm like, dude, I got to keep up. Like, if I'm not keeping up with that dude, then we're not going to win. So, that keeps me pretty psyched up, just watching my old man bust ass, to win grand championships ourselves.
Man, I agree with you. Music's where I get going to, kind of hypes me up. Like, literally, I pull up to the competition before I even put up a canopy. The music's already on. Do you have a song? Like, do you have like a go-to song that you got to listen to at a certain
What's
time?
your favorite Sheena Easton song?
No, I'm a genre guy. It's West Coast gangster rap that gets me going.
There's a Pandora station called Hip Hop Barbecue that you got to check out.
Yeah,
it plays old school, like Snoop and Tupac and all that. And so we listen to that a lot too. Hip Hop Barbecue.
Yeah, that's how it was at this competition. It started at my booth. It was hip hop. Then we go to Jerry Aguilar. He got hip hop going. And then we hit Salt City Barbecue. They got the Lumineers. Then we hit the next one. We got more Warren G gangster rap. It was really weird. It's like everybody was in the same groove except for this guy. And guess what? He won.
Listen to me though. I think that I owe a lot of credit to Waylon Jennings. You always like tag everyone like, oh, thanks for letting us, like grill greats, whatever. I started tagging Waylon Jennings because when you talk about like trimming and stuff, and that's what gets me going, little Waylon.
There you go.
I listen to everything.
I'm everything except for new age country. I can't get behind that.
I'm a big music fan, hardcore, complete snob about it. And I listen to, I am all over the board. And my teammates, I like Sheena Easton. I'm sure she has a good song. But, I'm all over the board with my teammates. They like the emo stuff. That's the only thing I can't get with. And it's the only stupid thing they want to listen to. Like, how do you get pumped on that? I just want to go just pout in a corner and
hope it rains.
Yeah, I can't do it.
First team I was on, the guy that started the grease fire in our mixing smoker, he was a techno guy. And I can see the talent in techno, and I can enjoy it in certain settings, but I don't want to sit under a 10x10 easy up next to a smoker and pound techno music,
Right.
And we would let him have his turn, but after a while, I'd be like, bro, like, can we listen to like anything else? Like, you got some Rick Astley or something, man? Like, I'll listen to anything else that's techno.
Put on the Grease soundtrack. I don't care, man. Do something.
So when Rusty and I started this podcast back in September of 2019, he was really, really strong on saying, let's blow past backyard competition, just go straight pro. last 2 weeks ago, he retracted a statement and says you should hang out in backyard barbecue. Where do you feel like a new beginner should be? Should they spend some time in backyard and get really good, get a couple underneath their belt, jump pro? Where do you stand on the new guy coming into the game?
So my answer is probably going to be different than a lot of people, but I think it depends on your financial situation. If you can afford to go pro and get your ass kicked, go pro, because you're going to learn more. You're just going to learn more in a pro comp. If you can't, hang out in backyard, cook your ribs and chicken, do your $75 entry fees, and hang out until you get to a point that you think you can go win some money. I say that more so because of the people that are around you. If I cook a backyard, I'm hanging out with backyard people, I'm getting backyard tips. If I'm pro, and if you set up next to me at a competition and you talk to me, I'm gonna tell you everything, man. Like I'm like they used to be so secret. They wouldn't tell you what was in their dishwater, but now there's no secrets in barbecue, man. We all talk, and I got a couple of rubs on the market, and I remember I was in Warsaw, and this guy's like, "Hey man, he's like, try this rub that I make," and I'm like, "Yeah," and I was like, "Well, here's a bottle of my rub." And he was like, "Holy shit!" And like last week, he texted me. He's like, "Dude, I cooked some pork with your rub, and it's out of this world." Well, if he was cooking a backyard and not stood up next to me, he wouldn't have got that. He wouldn't have got those tips and things. So I just think if you're cooking backyard, you're getting backyard tips. And so if you can afford to go pro, go pro.
I would agree with that. I'm down with that. I get it.
Yeah.
I just think that's the thing is that count on your hand how many people that are financially available to do KCBS stuff, and really hit it hard, and lose. That's the problem with it. And that's another question is, where do you see that happening? Because a lot of people's arguments we talk about now, you have to buy a brisket that's $200, like we get A9s from Pensacola sometimes. And sometimes we just get Snake River Farms, and it's like shipping alone is as much as the brisket, So, and that's hurting people in the KCBS. I know you had the CEO of KCBS on your show a little while ago, and you guys were talking about this, but where do you see the future of KCBS going?
Well, I would say, first of all, before I guess we get to that, is that people who go about competition barbecue all wrong. People think like, let me figure this out and let me see how I can get this, how I can get this first grand championship. And they do all this shit on their own, and they practice on their own, and they spend tons and tons of money to do that. You don't need that nowadays, man. Like, you can go sign up for 2 classes, take 2 classes one winter and spend $1,200, practice a little bit of meat, and you can get calls in your first competition. So you don't have to lose for 3 years like you used to, So I just don't think, I think people go about it the wrong way. I talked to a guy this weekend that was like, "Well, man, I just don't have the $600 in me to go take a class." I was like, "Well, you haven't got a call in 5 comps. So you're $5,000 deep. What would that $600 class do to you if you just did that?" So I think people just approach competitions wrong. I mean, I've taken 9 or 10 classes since I got started. I take one every year. I've taken 2 the last 2 years. And I'm to the point that I don't get a lot out of them, but I get enough. It's worth it to me to try to get to the next level. So I just think people approach competition barbecue the wrong way. Now, as far as the future goes, I think, we're having more and more competitions having trouble getting enough teams there. And I think that we're seeing that. But I think the successful comps are going to continue to be successful. They're going to continue to grow, and they're going to get the teams. And we're going to see some fall to the wayside. It might get to a point that you got to travel a little bit more to get to some of these competitions in the next few years. But I think there's still going to be plenty of competitions and plenty of teams. And, there's guys that go away. You see like Blaine Hunter, he came out crushing it, and he went and started a restaurant. He doesn't get to eat much anymore. But for every Blaine Hunter, there's 15 people out there getting their feet wet and starting somewhere. And they might not cook 30 a year, but they cook 5. And so I think the competition barbecue is still strong. I just think we're going to see a little bit of change in dynamics and maybe the amount of comps. And it might be a whole lot of, 60 team comps instead of, the 30 team comps that are within 50 miles of each other. But I think it's strong. I think we're still growing.
Yeah. I agree with you though, with the whole class thing. Spend the money, take a class. And once again, it all revolves back to stay within your budget. If you're going to be a backyard, stay within your budget. If you go pro, you can go pro, but there's options out there to learn, like the barbecue league, $100 for a year. And they're giving tell-alls on there for $100. That's worth it right there all day. So,
yep. I got a tell-all brisket video coming out there in a couple months. on the barbecue league too. So,
oh, sweet.
And so, like, dude, for $100, like, that is insane to get to tell all stuff. You know, to me, it's hard to take a class or even watch a video and not taste the food, because tasting it is kind of, you know, that gives you, you're like, all right, well, this is my mark. This is where I had to get to. But still, man, those videos will get you there. I got a good buddy of mine, since Brian Payton cooks with Steve's Meet Me in St. Louis. Well, he got beat up in pork at a competition. And so he immediately went home and watched that video. He's like, dude, I just want to see, like, what did I do? Did I do something different? And he's like, man, I kind of did what they did. And he's like, they look the same. He's like, I think I'm okay. I'm going to run it again. And then the next comp he gets a pork call, you know? So even just a reference point, it's $100 a year. I mean, that barbecue league's awesome. And, you guys have a lot of classes out in your area? I know, like, maybe in Midwest, there's classes all over the place.
No, I think the closest class to us is
Arizona.
Las Vegas. We got Philip Dell and Sterling Smith doing a class in Las Vegas.
Well, on a consistent basis. There's a place called Barbecue Island in Phoenix, Arizona, that does a lot of really cool ones and brings some heavy hitters in. Yeah, but that's Phoenix, and that's a 10-hour drive.
Yeah, only person that we really get here consistently is Chris Marks. He shows up here.
And he's not a comp guy. He's This is how you cook in your backyard, guy.
Yeah, but that's pretty much the only big name class we really get here.
That's what sucks about Utah, man. We had this contest, right? That's one of two in Utah, period, for the year. That's just how we roll. So we're used to traveling around and trying to find other competitions. And thank God for Sterling Smith down in Arizona putting on some, you know. But if it wasn't for those, I don't know what we'd do. So it's hard to do classes.
I've only done 2 classes, but both classes I had people from California and Arizona in my class. And that's why I was like, are there no classes in that area? Like, why are they traveling to, you know, St. Louis and Chicago and stuff to do classes? So
I had to travel to go to Brad's and Tim's in Kansas City, you know?
Well, I just got a crazy idea. Why don't we just talk off mic and maybe get Chris Schafer out here to teach a class? So we'll go there.
The barbecue pit stop.
Yeah, we'll get you at the barbecue pit stop. We'll figure that out off mic.
I love it. We can figure it out. Honestly, like, from my background and things, teaching classes is one of the funnest things I've done. And I got some criticism thinking that people saying that I hadn't really done enough to start teaching classes yet, you know, because my name isn't as big as a Brad Leininger, Tim Shear, that kind of thing. But man, I just enjoy the hell out of it, and it's fun. And this weekend I'm in Franklin, and I didn't get a chicken call, but the top 4 teams in chicken all took my class, and so it was like I didn't get a call, but to watch those guys walk up there was pretty cool, you know.
Yeah, you won. You taught them in that, so you won.
How does that work? I'm kind of curious. So you do classes and you teach them chicken. Chances are at least half are going to use your exact recipe. What do? Do you just because we had Chad Ward on here and he said, I'll say it again. I say this all the time. I love this. Now I can, you know, like he said that you can have Larry Bird teach you how to shoot threes, but then you have to shoot threes against Larry Bird, you know? How is that how you play it? Or do you just kind of like, I've heard stories of certain people kind of, this is my old recipe. I'm going to shrug this one off this season. So I'm going to teach this in my class and move on. Or do you just stick with your process and just say, I'm probably going to cook it better than you?
Yeah, that's my thing is I'm probably going to cook it better than you. I have a philosophy that I cook more than most people that you'll ever meet. I practice like a madman. And, you know, you listen to a lot of my podcasts and those guys are like, oh, I don't practice anymore. I do. I practice like crazy. And so I'm going to work circles around you. So even if you take my class, no way you're going to cook as much food as me. So, you know, until you've cooked 5,000 chicken thighs, my recipe isn't going to get you there alone, you know? And so I teach it, and then I just figure I'm going to do it better than you. And sometimes you're going to do it better than me, but you can do better than me without my recipe and process too.
Nice. And talking about practice, we had Sterling Ball on here, and he said that he asked us a question, how often do you practice? And I said, on a good month, once a week. He's like, you're not practicing enough. You know, and I'm like, God, Sterling, what am I supposed to do? Okay, I'm mortgaging the house and I'm going to practice for this comp. What does that process look like for you when you do practice? What does that look like? How often do you do it?
Well, this winter was a little different. I think there's also a point that you get to where practicing becomes unnecessary. You get to the point where you can cook good enough that every practice is the exact same, and after a while you're just wasting money. So this winter I probably had 10 practice cooks, you know, nothing too crazy. But the year before we won the Invitational, I told Mark, and so the weekend after the last competition, we cooked every single week. He got to my house at 5 a.m. every Sunday, and we cooked every single week up until the Invitational. We didn't miss a single week. But a lot of people, they look at practice like, oh, I cooked 6 thighs. We were doing 4 meat cooks. I was doing SRF golds in my driveway, cooking 4 meat cooks and practices. And, I probably spent, $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 that winter practicing. But when I got to Little Rock for that invitational, I was the only guy that had cooked the last 25 straight weekends. I guarantee it.
Yeah. And that's the thing is, I think when we do ours, we omit the brisket, cause you kind of, for us, we kind of have to, cause it's expensive. Like you said, man, I mean, they're not cheap.
Yeah. Cause you can practice chicken almost daily if you wanted to, but practicing brisket twice a week, that's going to get
pork
pretty,
butt.
Yeah,
pork butt. Well, before this whole mess, pork butt was like, I could get it at the restaurant for like $1.03 a pound,
Well, there's local grocers too. Like ours, Smith's had it for 99 cents a pound, and I bought.
So do you use, I mean, you said you use gold briskets. Are you using the same contest, like you're using the same chicken, using contest, same pork, same ribs, all that in your practices? You don't deviate from that?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So like I cook Duroc, or I cook compart ribs and butts. And so I practice with compart ribs and butts. And so, me going to a local grocery store and picking up a pork butt and practicing with it doesn't do me any good. And so I'm gonna cook exactly how I cook. I even cook the same amount of food because of airflow in my pit and fire management. If I cook 4 racks of ribs, I can't go practice 2 of them have the same practice. I got to cook 4 racks of ribs. If I cook 3 butts, I got to cook 3 butts. So people don't realize, man. I mean, airflow and fire management and things like that is so important when it comes to cooking barbecue. That you got to practice how you compete. You got to compete how you practice.
Plus elevation.
Yeah.
We had all these boys from California and Vegas and friggin' Arizona come up and they're like, why does it take 45 minutes for my gateways to get up to temperature? I'm like, bro, you're at 4,300 feet, man. Yeah. It's going to take you a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jerry comes out of his trailer. He's like, it's not breaking. It's not breaking. I'm like, dude, just give it 30 minutes. And he's like,
you're fine.
And then he comes running out. He goes, it's too hot. Like, I told you, just
wait it out. The guys I talked to in Colorado, the guys that cook Frisco and stuff like that, they're like, man, it's a completely different game up here. Like you're never going to get a brisket to the temperature that you are in St. Louis. It's not even going to be close. So that's where you got to become a better cook and figure out your tenderness and when to pull it. Because if you're a temp guy, that's not going to be the same there. Kind of like we cooked the smoking with Smithfield down there in New Orleans. Can you imagine if you're a Colorado guy and you go cook in New Orleans, how different it's going to be?
Low sea level. The highest point in New Orleans is you can see over it. I used to live there, and there's a park called Audubon Park, and there's this little mound in that park. It's the highest point in New Orleans, and it's like up to my waist.
Oh man!
And it's still it's cool, man. You can go down there. You see the ships above you. They come down. It's crazy.
Wow. So have you jumped into SEA at all? Have you played around in that at all?
I got a funny SEA story. So I'm so focused on my 4 meats that I don't like ancillaries. I don't like any of that stuff because it just gets in my way. And I'm basically a 1-man team. So, my dad, like I couldn't do without my dad, but he cleans pits, he sets up pits, he runs the pits, he does all that, but he doesn't know a single recipe or he doesn't touch a piece of meat, So like I'm basically a 1-man team when it comes to actually the cooking part of it. So we were down in a competition in Kennett, Missouri, and the organizer's a real good dude. They just needed some teams, and he asked me to do an SCA, and I was like, hey, I'll do it. So, in true modern fashion, I watched a Cosmo video and said, man, I could do steak. Screw it. And so we get down there, and I was cooking I had a Weber Smoky Mountain, and I just filled the bottom of the actual pit and took the whole thing apart and used the bottom of the pit and threw some grill grates on it. And by the time my buddies came over that had done SCA before, they're like, how long you do this for? I'm like, I don't know, a minute and a half. I turned it. I don't know. So there's like 10 guys around telling me how to do this thing. And so a buddy of mine, he does really well in SCA. So we got him on video chat and we're all just sitting around and we're like, well, we're sure to turn it now. And he's like, yeah, turn it. And so we turn it and whatever. And it ended up being, there's like 27, 28 teams there. And I got 7th in the SCA and all my buddies that cooked it did. I was the only one that got a call out of all our buddies. And there were some of the guys there that were some of the best in the world at SCA at the time that I had beat, and so I got a picture of me and like each of my buddies with that ribbon. I posted like 10 different pictures of us holding that ribbon. I'm like, all right, guys, it's the first and last one. Like I am retired from SCA. It's fun. But like I said, it takes away from my big 4. So I kind of leave it alone.
That's funny. That's kind of what happened to me, man. My son cooks with SCA against me. So I had 2 team members there helping me this weekend, and then my wife, and then my son was cooking on his PK grill, and they were like, hey, what's next? And I just yell over my shoulder because I'm worried about my steak on what to do. And all 3 of these people are helping him out, and he was able to beat me by 5 spots, man. I was like, maybe I'm not going to tell them what to do next time. Maybe they can figure it out on their own. But then again, the dad in me comes out and I want my son to win.
How old is your son?
14.
That's awesome, dude. That's so cool to be able to cook with your kid and they actually enjoy it. My daughter's 6 and she hung out with my buddy. They did a kids queue. His daughter did a kids queue and she just hung out and she left there wanting to do kids queue. So I'm pretty stoked about it, man. To have your kid want to do what you do is awesome.
Right. It was actually really cool too, to see him. Wait, he hit 15th. We had 32 teams in the SCA, so he beat half the pack.
Oh no, we had 37 teams.
So he beat over half the pack. And then as soon as he was done, he's like, Dad, I beat you, kind of rub it into me. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, let's move on. But now he actually wants to dip into ancillary. So the next competition, he's actually going to do a dessert. So it's kind of cool to see him be like, hey, I'm doing decent in steak. I want to take on this next thing. So it's kind of cool to see him starting to want to progress on his own without me forcing anything. He's just like, I want to do it. I want to do dessert. I want to give it a try. Like, hell yeah.
So how long and how old does he got to be before you give him a category?
He cooks his own, man. Oh, for KCBS.
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know. I don't know if he's ready for that level. Well, probably.
It would be cool.
I wouldn't mind giving him ribs. Ribs there's not a lot to do to get them ready, and they're pretty basic. I'm not saying that they're easy, but they're really basic. Not a lot of trimming, not a lot of seasoning. Not a lot going into it. So I would be confident in giving him ribs if he wants to.
Yeah.
So
that would be cool. If I have a 6-year-old too, she's a girl too. She doesn't seem to be too interested. But if they're Saints fans or competition cooks, either one's fine with me.
Or Jazz fans.
There you go. Well, they have to be Jazz fans. They have to live on their own.
My daughter had no interest whatsoever, but we were at the competition and she just wanted somebody to hang out with. So she's like, Dad, where's kids? And I was like, Smiley's got some kids. So we were to hang out with my buddy Smiley, and they had a kids queue going on, and so she was just part of it. And they let her make a burger and they let her cook it, and so she got to do the whole process with them. And after that, she was like, "Yeah, let's do this." So you might just have your daughter get in and hang out with somebody during one and see if she digs it.
Maybe she was there. She went to one and she ate food and she was loving it, man. But when they're older, we'll see it. They help me out all the time. They're, Dad, can I help you do this? So I'll let them like stir a sauce, do something little, whatever they want to do. Maybe that'll help. But
really, my son didn't. He's went to competitions with me. He's been around it. He just kind of hangs out. But when I actually put the spatula and the steak in his hand for just a practice, he's like, "This is awesome," because I actually cooked something. It tastes good, and I can win with it. So that's when it turned for him. And that was. When did we do that American Fork? Late September last year, maybe? And it was just on. He's always, can we practice? When's the next comp? So it's kind of cool.
That's cool.
2 weeks ago, my daughter was with me at that comp, and she wanted help with boxes. And before that, I was always like, well, hand me some parsley and I'll put it in, that kind of thing. And so I let her make her first parsley box, like literally from beginning to end. And I showed her kind of how to do it. And she got done, and I was like, damn, babe, that's a good looking box. And I purposely saved it for brisket, and I put it in brisket, and we got third place brisket, but I got all 9s in appearance on it. So I was like, babe,
nice.
Your box got us all 9s, so she's been stoked. And so she didn't go this weekend, and she told me that maybe she should have been there. I would have done better.
That's the thing, is maybe I'll teach them how to do boxes and trim chicken, and that's it. I mean, I would be fine with that. That's all I care about.
The first 3 thighs, they're like, I quit.
Right. Well, all right, man.
It won't even go 3, maybe 2.
Yeah.
So, do you guys have the podcast? It's called All That for 6 Pieces. Really good podcast you guys can check out. What else you got going on? What else can you shout out here on the podcast?
Yeah, man. So I got 2 rubs on the market: Heavy Smoke White Label, Heavy Smoke Black Label. They were developed for competition. They were things we've been working on for a long time. I got a food truck and catering company in St. Louis under the same name, Heavy Smoke, and we've been using that rub for a long time. And we finally decided to put it in a bottle, and we've been selling that. The white label is kind of good for everything. It's kind of more of our all-purpose, and the brisket, or the black label, is kind of designed for brisket and beef. But we're finding that it's kind of good on everything. Like in the truck, we season our mac and cheese and our homemade chips and everything with black label. So You know, I use it in comps too, which is a really cool feeling to grab your own rub, you know, to grab your own rub and open up the bottle and put it on meat and get calls with it is a good feeling.
That's
you
cool.
know, so you can get that at a lot of different places like KCBarbecueSupply.com or, you know, HeavySmokeBBQ.com. But the rub's taken off, and that's fun. Like I said, it's fun to use your own stuff.
Well, cool, man. We appreciate you coming on the show, man. We're big fans of yours, and if you guys are listening right now, go check those guys out. They got a lot of cool stuff, really good guests,
and your
really
podcast
good questions.
Your podcast on all major platforms, correct?
Yeah. We Spotify is the biggest, but it's on iTunes and Google and iHeartRadio and all that stuff. And we got a Facebook page and a website. It's all that for 6 pieces. And I, you guys are comp guys. What people don't understand is like all the stuff that we do throughout the week in a competition to give 6 pieces of meat to a stranger. That's where we got that name, man. Was we do all that for 6 pieces of meat.
Like I said, I've said that myself several times.
I throw an extra one in there for the grazing table.
Yeah, right. That help those guys out.
Yeah.
Well, like I say, rarely do I only turn it 6. All that for 6, you know.
Same.
Yeah.
I do as much as I can.
Yep.
All right, man. We appreciate your time, and thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
See ya.
All right, man. Chris Schafer.